Hey everyone, in this video, I'm going to tell you about my favorite books with interesting women. The best books I read in 2022 with the best female protagonists. Up next. Hi everyone, welcome to Book Talks with Miss Thomas. I am Miss Thomas. If you are new here, please subscribe if you like hearing about great books. And if you are returning, yay, thanks so much and welcome back. So this is the second installment of my series, My Favorites from 2022, my favorite books from 2022. The first video was my favorite funny books from 2022. This one is my 5 favorite books about women. Just 5 favorite fantastic female protagonists. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, but I want to tell you about 5 really great books that feature really great women. And the first one I'm going to start with is called Counterfeit. And Counterfeit is the story of Ava Wong, who is this attorney, and she just goes about her life as like a rule follower, always does what's expected of her, and she has the ideal marriage and a child who does throw tantrums, and her child kind of embarrasses her a little bit. When she runs into Winnie Fang, her old college roommate. And Winnie Fang comes into this, I believe it was a coffee shop, with this gorgeous outfit and this beautiful Birkin bag. I'm pretty sure it was a Birkin. Really nice designer bag. And come to find out, Winnie has this racket going where she purchases fancy bags from department stores, and then she buys knockoffs online, and then she returns the knockoff to the department store and sells the does she sell the fancy bag? I can't remember. And she wants her old friend Ava to join the business. And Ava is such a straight-laced attorney. She really grapples with whether or not she wants to do this, but she also really cares about her old college friend, Winnie Fang. So there's some interesting dynamic between the two women and how very different they are. And there's also a lot about the whole pyramid scheme, if you will, of the designer handbags. And I just thought it was a fun book. It was interesting, and it was rich in character development. The second book that I really enjoyed in 2022 with a fantastic female character is Malibu Rising with Nina. Now, Nina is the supermodel and daughter of rock star Mick Riva. And Mick Riva, he makes an appearance in Daisy Jones and the Six, and I believe he also makes an appearance in The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I'm not sure. I've read them both, but I can't remember the one about Evelyn Hugo because that was the first one I read. But anyway, Mick Riva, it's not exactly a series, but he's a fictional character that appears in all 3. So if you are a fan of any of those books, Malibu Rising is my favorite one there of the 3. And Malibu Rising is the story of Nina. And it sort of flashes back between Nina, this supermodel whose husband left her, and they have this beautiful house in Malibu on the water, and Nina has this party every year. And they tell you in the beginning of the story that this is a famous party and it's going to end in a fire. And so you know that going into the story. But then as the story unfolds and it leads up to the party and the fire, you learn all the different characters that were at the party. And you learn a lot about Nina. I loved Nina. I really, I liked the character of Nina. So Nina is the oldest of her siblings. And she, like I say, is the daughter of Mick Riva, and Mick Riva marries June. And June's family owns a seafood restaurant in Malibu. And so, and it's really kind of a hole in the wall. But Mick Riva and June get married, and there's a lot of the book that is told from that point of view about Mick and June and Mick's rise to fame. And then, of course, once Mick Riva becomes a rock star, he leaves June and goes through a series of wives and ends up, he stops paying child support and, any kind of alimony. And so June and the kids are left, without much at all. And so Nina ends up becoming a model. She finds that she can model and make a lot of money. And so she sort of takes on the role of the family matriarch and helps to raise the younger siblings and becomes sort of the rock in their lives. And so there's a lot. I liked the character of Nina. And there's this thing about Nina and her husband and the way her husband broke her heart and humiliated her because they're famous. And so it's all over the tabloids that her husband is running around with some other woman. And then, there's this party that Nina doesn't really want to have because she's all over the tabloids, but she is going to go ahead and have this party. And we know going into it that it's going to end in a fire. And so it's just really a fun book to see how the different characters in the book all end up at this party and how the story unfolds and, how the party turns into a disaster. I loved the book. I really enjoyed it. It was my favorite of the books by that author. Along the lines of books about famous women, I really enjoyed Run, Rose, Run, written by James Patterson and Dolly Parton. And I heard the audiobook, and I really enjoyed the audiobook because Dolly Parton tells part of the story. And it was just so fun to hear Dolly Parton. That's one that I mentioned in another video. I listened to that in the car with my family, and my whole family enjoyed that book. So it's hard to find a book that can appeal to me, my husband, and my two boys. Well, my middle schooler was not real impressed, but what impresses middle schoolers really? But my husband and my older son, they were following the story. So Run, Rose, Run is the story of a country singer, a girl who goes to Nashville to try to make it as a country star. And, she comes from poverty and abusive family, and she has this tragic history that's alluded to throughout the book. There's these bad men chasing her, and we don't exactly know what's going on there, but we know she's on the run, and she is discovered by Dolly Parton and a really nice male country singer, and they want to, build her into this country music star, and she really wants that. That's her dream, but at the same time, she's got this past that she's running from, and she doesn't want Dolly Parton, and although Dolly Parton, that's not her name in the book. I forget what her name is, because she'll always be Dolly Parton, right? But she doesn't really want to reveal that to the people in Nashville that are trying to help her. She doesn't quite trust anybody. So she's really struggling with a lot of baggage. And it's just a story about, love conquers all, and how, the tried and true support of the Dolly Parton character and the country singers really just help Rose pull herself up and get herself together and become this star. And it's just a lovely story. Another favorite book with a fantastic female character from 2022 is How the Penguins Saved Veronica. Veronica is this elderly woman who she's getting older. She's not dying, but she's getting older, and she's thinking about what to do with all of her wealth because she has quite a lot of money. And she has this grandson that she wants to connect with and see if perhaps she can have him in her life. Maybe she'll leave him some of her money. And she's really disappointed when she meets this grandson. That's kind of a funny thing. The grandson, I liked the character, even though this video is about women. And Veronica is just horrified that this is her grandson. So she decides instead she's going to give all her money to the penguins in Alaska. And so she goes off to Alaska to learn about penguins. And of course, the scientists in Alaska are not thrilled to have her there. But they want her money, of course, so they tolerate her. And she just has this journey in Alaska where she learns about penguins. And I know that it doesn't sound fascinating, but it was rich in character development. And I loved the character of Veronica. How the Penguins Saved Veronica was a winner for me. And of course, my favorite book from 2022, actually, this is my favorite hands down of all books, from 2022 is The Unlikely Yarn of the Dragon Lady. Now that was a sleeper. So The Unlikely Yarn of the Dragon Lady is a story of these women that are in church and they get together and they knit prayer shawls. And the pastor kicks them out and he says, you know, it's time for you to go and knit in the public and bring your ministry to the lost. So they end up having to knit in the mall when they would really prefer to knit in the church, in the prayer chapel. And well, they don't all oppose the idea of going to the mall. There's this one character, I think her name was Rose, and she is eager to get out there in the mall. And she has recently been put into a retirement home by her daughter, and you learn a little bit about that and how sad that is for her because she's so, you know, spry and she wants to be out there and busy. And so she's thrilled to go out in the mall and knit. But there's this character, Margaret, and Margaret is very put off about having to leave the sanctity of the prayer chapel. And she's very judgy. And I like that about the book because I feel like through Margaret, we're forced as readers to confront narrow-mindedness. And, you know, we have to learn to love Margaret despite all of her biases. And she deals with them in the book. And so as she deals with them, we really see the unfolding of, you know, a tangled heart. And I just loved that. I loved the book. I loved the different women in the book. I loved the way they related to the different women in the mall. They made different friends in the mall that would come up to them and talk to them and ask them to pray. And it was quite a ministry because they became these ladies, you know, and a lot of it was Christmas shopping. They're in the mall and these women are Christmas shopping and they just get to know these little old ladies while they're knitting. And, you know, different lives unfold and different women have different prayer requests and they all just come together and some of them start going to the church. And it was just a really lovely book and it was rich in character development of just multifaceted women, and I loved that one. So those are some really good books about women in 2020 that I read. And my next one, I think, will probably be my top 5 young adult books. I also have my top 5 Christian books. So be on the lookout for those, and hopefully you'll read some of these and enjoy them.